Right, so what we're going to need? We're going to need 2 spanners, an 18 and a 19mm spanner, obviously for all the connections, make sure they're good. I also suggest an adjustable spanner and also what I call an adjustable wrench. Okay, you're going to need that for, let's say, the manifold filter. Let's do this. First thing we're going to do is remove the caps. Okay, with all my machines, I keep these, I just throw them in my spray box. First thing we're going to do is obviously add the gauge. That just goes finger tight to start with. Over the years, we've realized that if you had the gauge like so, which most people do, it's fine, but you yourself are going to have to come down to read any pressure that is like 15 to 2000 upwards. So we've learned over the years, just tilt it back. So we look down at our machine and we can instantly see what pressure we've got. Cool. So I'm just going to nip that up a little bit, but I'll tighten it fully in a second. So we use an 18mm spanner, just a little bit of pressure on the gauge so it doesn't keep spinning back. I haven't over tightened it at this point. Remove the red caps from the hose. Add the hose again, finger tight. 18mm, hold the gauge again, just a little nip. Take the whip hose and make sure that you've obviously got a double male connector on one end. The end that has the spring goes to the gun. This end goes to the hose. Again, finger tight. So what we do is we take the 2 18mm spanners, one goes on the hose and one goes on the male connector. And then what we do is we just tighten those. The whip hose is 19mm. So we leave 18mm on the male connector. And this time we use a 19mm on the whip hose. So we've got the whip hose connected to our hose. And like I say, we want the spring end to the gun. So what we're going to do is hand tighten. When we fix in the gun to the whip hose, we're going to be using a 19 and a 19. And again, we're just going to tighten. We're just going to come back to the gauge and just double check that we've got that nice and tight. Each of these connections, the 2 at the gauge, 2 at the whip hose and the gun, when we do the next video, which obviously is flushing the machine, we also put every connection under full pressure, 3,300 PSI, just to make sure we ain't got any leaks. If we do, we drop the pressure, give it a little tighten. But we'll show you that on the next one. Okay, when you get your Tritech, the manifold filter, you need to check what's in there. Don't assume it's the mesh that you want to particularly work with. For us, we always like using 50 mesh. Over the years, we found it's pretty much exactly what we want. So what we do, firstly, is turn it down into dump position. The reason being is, if you have actually got this plugged in, there might be a little bit of pressure left and you'll find it really hard to take this off. Once it's in the dump position, there is no pressure, therefore it'll come off a lot easier. We've just undone it with a spanner. Now what we're going to do is do this by hand. There's the housing, there's the filter, there's the spring. The filter that's in this machine is a 20 mesh. We don't use it, we don't see the benefit. We find that 50 mesh works really well. We don't throw the filter, there might be a use at some point, so we just put it to one side. What we do is we take the spring, drop into the filter, now drop both into the housing, put our finger over the top, come back up, drop them in, and then again, tighten them by hand, and then we'll just give it a little nip with the spanner. Right, one of the things you want to be considering is, like I said, filtration. Filtration for me is probably the most important part of spraying. Over the years, we found that, like I said, we've got a 50 mesh in the manifold. We ran 100 mesh as a rule in the gun. So I'm going to show you how to change that. The first thing you want to do, lift the trigger lock. But for this, you've got to push the trigger forward because it's got this little hook section. Push it forward with 2 fingers, lift it up. That allows you to pull the gun back just a fraction to drop the trigger guard. Pop that out, it's quite stiff because it's new. There you go. Hold the handle because here is where it breaks apart. It should only be hand tight. There you go, see, really easy. Just give it a spin by hand. Watch the tip guard because again, like I say, it keeps catching. Just, you can bend that down a little bit. You're not going to damage it. Remove, pops out. There is a 50 mesh. Oh, and a spring. Keep the spring. If you're ever going to do anything regards spraying, especially with the Tritech machines, just get this spring as a spare. It's going to save your life. You're going to find that every time you empty the machine, flush out the machine, and then you empty the bucket of, let's say, water, you're going to throw these away by mistake, so get spares. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is make sure that we drop in, obviously, the spring. Next thing we want to do is make sure we get the filter in the right way. There's a hole in the thinner part, but no hole in the fatter part. And the reason being is when you drop it in like so, firstly we've got the spring, all the paint comes around the filter from the outside and comes up through here. That then goes through your gun. If you pull the trigger at any point, you don't get paint coming through, I guarantee you've put the filter in the wrong way. So take it apart, start again. So all we're doing now is just get the thread going. There we go. We're in with the trigger guard and the trigger lock. We're all back to safety. Okay, so we've got the gun, we've got the tip, and we've got the guard. So now what we need to do is obviously put it together. The first thing I would do is always ensure that we've got the trigger lock on, and ideally have the prime valve in the down position. Therefore, we know that there's no pressure. It's just a rule we have. If we're ever messing around with the tip, the guard, cleaning a blockage, anything in this section, we always have the trigger lock on, okay? And if for any reason we're on site and we're not using the trigger lock, which you should, okay, we always have 2 fingers behind the trigger. That is something that we always do. We just got used to it over the 20 years of spraying. So let's look at the tip and the guard. There's the tip and guard. That's the way it comes. It's a 517 that comes as standard. So to remove it, just give it a little wiggle and it pops out. As you can see, it's quite stiff. The tip guard is made up of the guard, but in the back is a washer, okay? And in the front is a saddle. And that saddle has to build a really nice, tight fixing or seal against the actual tip. So when it goes in, because it's concave, okay, it will work really, really well. As you can see, there's the cut, obviously for the spray side, and there's the big hole, which is the back side. So the paint comes in this side and leaves through here. As you can see, the tip looks like an arrow. You've got the arrowhead and the flights. So whenever you put the tip in, that's the way it needs to look. There's also another factor. As you can see, there's this little ridge here, and that has to go to the front. So what we're going to do is put that in. We've also found that if you put this in now and then try and attach both, the tip will keep catching on the trigger guard. So the easiest way is just to add the guard first. We do that until this is really stiff. Then loosen it a little bit. As you can see, it rocks around. That allows you now to, like I say, have this at the front, force it down. You do have to be quite firm with it because that's the way the Tritechs have been engineered. Turn it till it can't go any further, okay? Then line it up and just tighten. There you go. It's finger tight. Well, you want to be able to turn it by hand. See there? That happens a lot, so bear that in mind, that if you turn it back, it's also turned the fixing. And now if I pulled the trigger, okay, paint would just spurt out. So what we've got to do is ensure that this is tight whilst this is in line. Okay, we're all good. We can remove the trigger lock, we can set it up and we can start spraying. Right guys, that's your T7 put together, okay? So that's obviously the gauge is in the right place, everything's been tightened up, we've got the whip hose added, okay, we've got the gun, the filter, the tip, we've explained everything regards the best way to put it safely. Now what we're going to do in the next video is show you guys how to do the flushing. So we're going to do the flushing and we're going to check all the connections. Cool, let's do that.